Greetings, everybody. This is Serpentine451 here with another episode of Weeb Warriors. And joining me this week, it's only
we're a man short on this episode, guys. Jordan was at a conference all last week or most of last week, and he did not get to watch anything. So it's just going to be a kind of a repeat of episode one, if you've seen episode one, which is on my channel actually.
I still need to make that playlist. Shit.
It's all good, Tony. It's all good.
But with the premiere of Fooly Cooly Season 2, we're adding that to our initial list now.
Yeah, because I'm a huge fan of the series, and I definitely want to talk about it. And actually, fun fact, I reviewed it on my channel, and it is doing exceptionally well. Like, it's crazy. I honestly thought it wasn't going to do that well because it's such a cult classic. Like, I hear very few people talk about Fooly Cooly, but man, that blew up pretty quick. I was surprised. So thank you, anybody who happens to be watching this, watch that video as well. Thanks for the support. Appreciate it.
Okay, but also we have a bit of an update. Jay here has actually seen 9 episodes of Darling in the Franxx.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. We'll get into our full details about it later. If small children enter my room, that's because my cousin just got home. I can hear them coming upstairs. Just heads up.
All right. Good for.
But yeah, no, I really like it so far. The mech designs I think are really interesting considering this is made by Trigger. Trigger's mech designs, like again, we'll get into this in full detail when we do the Darling in the Franxx special when the series wraps or the season wraps. I have a feeling there's definitely going to be a second season because of the buzz behind the series. But anyway, I really like the mech designs. They're not as skeletal as your normal Trigger mecha designs, because if you've seen like Gurren Lagann and like Gias and I think Gias was Sunrise, but if you've seen Gurren, you know that Trigger, not only with its like character designs in general, but like its mecha designs, they're usually very skeletal in nature. So like with Darling in the Franxx, they have a lot more bulky thing, and I like the expressive like face display on the mechas as well. I think that adds a unique kind of feature to it. It makes it different from other mech shows. And normally I really don't like mecha. I find mech shows really boring. But I really enjoy Darling in the Franxx for like the whole character progression, and it's a very character-driven show. And I like the relationships that develop between the pilots and the team in general. So it's a fun ride. And apparently Tony and Jordan have both warned me for this like next stretch of episodes that I'm about to come across with 10 through 14. Well, no, 10, Jordan says 10 through 16. Jordan says 10 through 16, but Tony said specifically 10 through 14.
No, I just told you 10 and 14 because...
Oh, 10 and 14.
Because you're going to see some fuckery happen.
I'm sure.
Mostly 14. But if you like one character, which we'll talk about like at a later time, off screen, so to speak, I will mention this to you later. But if you like a certain character, episode 10 is going to make you question her decision. So,
well, I mean, if that character happens to be Ichigo, then there's no problem with me liking her.
Yeah, okay. That's not Ichigo. I'm going to save that little bit of information for later.
Okay, it's not Ichigo. Okay, that's all I need to know. I don't need to spoil it anyway. We're good. We're going to move on now.
So I guess we can begin with the initial reviews. Since all right. Jay didn't watch Comic Girls or DXC, we might as well get those two out of the way first.
All right, yep.
So this week's episodes of Comic Girls and DXD Hero, I'll start with Comic Girls. Basically, all the stories boil down to essentially 2 big plots in this episode. Kwayome, since she has a propensity for eating a bunch of sweets, she's gained a bit of weight, and she's trying to do her damnedest to take the pounds off, which She didn't put on much weight to begin with.
I was gonna say Kyome has always been like the thicker one anyway, so I don't feel like it wouldn't even be that noticeable.
Yeah, but when she weighs herself, and you know how women get, Jay.
Yeah, no, believe
I'm
me,
just
I
not saying
like
anything
it's
derogatory towards women. I just know.
no. I get it. I've experienced
No, I'm saying this for like our audience at home.
yeah, well, yeah, true, but yeah, no, I know how you feel, man. I have stepped right into the trap of does this make blah 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 blah, and you don't win either way, so you might as well just be like, no.
And when you live in a house full of women like I have for many years, there's some things you just don't say. So,
Exactly. Like even just having an older sister, you just know just to shut the hell up with certain subjects. It's just like, nah.
well, when you're having a little sister and your mother, ugh, no, it's no. But anyway, so Koyome asked Tsubasa to actually help her like jog because Tsubasa, being the sporty girl that she is, she jogs every morning before going to school. I mean, most of the episode focused on a lot of Tsubasa's characterization, really. The second, well, the other, like the ending portion of the episode was focused on Tsubasa losing her manuscript briefcase and losing her mind. She didn't know what to do. She was just very upset. Oh, and I almost forgot this very cute moment where they wanted to have Tsubasa wanted help with writing the main heroine in her manga. So the girls go shopping for cute things, and you get to see Tsubasa dress a little bit like a girly girl in some ways. I mean, no skirts, but she wears short shorts. It's actually kind of funny and adorable to
Huh.
see her.
Like what kind of short shorts? Are we talking like
I
athletic
know there were
short shorts?
shorts that were kind of frilled at the ends. And,
Really, frilly short shorts. I was when you said short shorts, I was imagining like the PE athletic, like hot pants short shorts.
oh no, not hot pants. It's not hot pants. It's like just short shorts, like about close to the mid part of the thigh. I'd say that the longest it went was about uh yeah, about mid to the thigh.
Hmm.
And also wearing this sort of cute what looked like a sweater, like a tan sweater. I don't really remember completely, but it was
It's like my bad. I just got a notification on Discord. I'm like, dang, like 3 people are going live now on the Frontline Discord.
Jesus.
We got a bunch of people. We got a bunch of people going live.
I'm getting a lot of messages because, well, thanks to Jay, I'm now also a part of the Comic Frontline Discord.
Well, yeah, you needed to be if you wanted to play the Ranger game.
Yep, and I get message from that thing constantly. It's amusing, really.
Yeah.
But anywho, let's see. Back to the manuscript hunt, because Tsubasa did get help in writing for her main heroine, and that little problem got resolved in a very hilarious way. I can't really remember exactly, but when she lost her manuscript, the girls basically teamed up with her to look for it for all around the school. I mean, everywhere. And they looked in the library, Kyle-chan and Riki did. And so when they went to the library, they found another manuscript briefcase. This belonging to Nijiro Sensei.
Huh. What is that? So what's in the briefcase?
It was her manuscript from the manga club that she was in with Chaos-chan's editor and the matron. And she got super embarrassed.
Huh.
Well, initially when she was told that her favorite person in the world, Wing V Sensei, lost her manuscript, she was going to initially help the girls look for it. But also in the back of her mind, she's saying, if I see those manuscripts first, it's like a sneak peek into what the next chapter is going to be. So she had her own ulterior motives trying to look for that manuscript.
Oh, so she's really just looking for the manuscript just for spoilers. I respect it. I respect it.
She had that thought in mind, but she also wants to help the girls look for it.
Mm-hmm.
Her intentions were good, but she has an
yeah, but yeah, no, I get it. The fan in her is also like, but I want to know the story though.
Yeah, pretty much. And when all hope seemed lost because they couldn't find it anywhere, a girl that they didn't know decided to show up and give Tsubasa back her briefcase.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll never guess who they didn't recognize and who was the one that found it. It was Fura Senpai, or better known as Ghost Girl.
Oh, Ghost Girl? Nice. Yeah, I was just about to ask actually. How is Ghost Girl adjusting to, the group dynamics and stuff?
Well, with her, she looked like any regular schoolgirl with long black hair. When they initially ran into her, it's like, "Oh, who are you? Well, we've never met you before." And she's like, "Really?" And so she takes out, I think it was a bow in her hair, and she let her hair down over her face, and boom, Fura Senpai. And scared the ever-loving Jesus out of these poor girls. And the last line of the episode was basically for us saying, "Oh, everyone's scream is so satisfying." Essentially, that's what she said. So overall, a very touching episode, mostly focusing on Kwayome and Tsubasa, leaning more towards Tsubasa's development as a character. And we got to see her more stoic nature get challenged, and seeing her actually freak out over something that she's very passionate about.
Yeah, no, I like seeing the more emotive side of Tsubasa. That's always a fun part of the show.
And then with High School DxD Hero, this latest episode begins with Issei and the gang in the underworld doing a hero show for the Opie Dragon. Kiba playing the villain, Rias as the princess that activates the Opie Dragon's power. And
yeah, makes sense. Of course.
Expression during that whole thing in the initial scene, she's like, "No, Opie Dragon, please save me," in the most deadpan fake voice.
Oh, so like a Hinamatsuri type thing.
No, she was like, "No, please save me, Opie Dragon." And Issei just eating up the scenery like a big ham. And Kiba really playing the role of a villain very well, surprisingly, for being such a chill and awesome dude.
Yeah. I bet. It's always fun to play the bad guy, though.
Oh, and then the funniest thing was like, okay, so we know what High School DxD is mostly known for. We know this, Jay, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's the most fan servicey show that everyone can have access to, okay? Other than a few other fan servicey shows. But the funniest thing that we can, for some ungodly reason, they decide when you have a hero show basically about a superhero who gets boosts in his power by just poking boobs.
Poking, fondling,
Yep.
Whatever.
Motorbone, fuck. And kids basically eat that shit up in the underworld, apparently.
Well, I mean, it's technically hell. You got to be pretty depraved, right?
Not small children in hell.
I mean, but if you're raised in hell,
but when you have a bunch of
people
basically doing this thing, signifying that you want to poke some female nipples.
I mean, like, to be fair, it's like, I mean, I know Riaz is very well-mannered and cultured, but I mean, look, you're literally in a world of denizens of hell. I don't see why small children would not be, like, rooting for, you say, the Opie Dragon.
Well, that is true, and it is basically the brainchild of Sir Zex and Azazel, but mostly Sir Zex. But interweaving the hero show because you get the announcer chick, and apparently she fell down or something happened to her, and she injured herself. So Erina, our little angel hottie, decided to like, you know what, I'm gonna take over for her, but this fucking suit that the announcer wore was too tight for her. So she asked Issei for help, but before that, Issei and Kiba had a small conversation about like the show's going great so far, and like, yeah, those kids love me, but apparently their young mothers have had eyes only for you, Kiba.
I like the but I mean, I also like the meta aspect of a show within a show. It's very rare that anime can do that pretty well, and I think DxD does it pretty well from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, the funny thing about just having, because they're using a lot of lore that are pertaining to dragons, like how well most mythical creatures are affected by certain things. Like music, for example, is a big proponent for
Yeah, and dragons, a lot of it's like gold or jewelry or just shiny objects in general.
yeah. If we remember from the special episode or episode 0, how they explain that dragons can be calmed down by through music that speak to them, and that's how the opening.
Oh, the Opie song, yeah,
So that's
right.
mostly connected to Issei to calm him down in his Juggernaut drive form. But then when Issei was trying to help Erina, well, you know, shenanigans happen, and you get to see breasticles.
Nice.
Oh no, because apparently everyone got super jealous that Erina decided to just have Issei alter herself, and they decided to basically strip. And then Ria's like, what the fuck is happening here? You guys need to get back to work. And they're like, yeah, yes, ma'am. Running away.
Nice.
And then we also have a scene where Issei talks with Reese's mother and Reese's nephew, mostly talking to her mother and how he should address her, either like mother-in-law or mother, instead of the president's mom.
Okay.
And then I think the remaining parts of the episode, because the hero show took on most of it. And the last bit from the hero show portion of the episode was actually a very sweet scene where there was a kid who didn't get any like special merchandise or didn't get to meet the old Pie Dragon in person, and he was crying and complaining about it to his mom. And the guy's like, well, who was one of the event hands, saying, I'm sorry you missed out on the event. I hope that you could come in next time a bit earlier. And so Issei, being the good guy that he is, decided, you know what, I'm going to make this kid stay, tell him, like, boys shouldn't cry, they have to be strong for those they want to protect, all that stuff. And that kid was
standard, like, shonen protagonist stuff.
Oh yeah, he made that kid's day, essentially, signing the hat that he wore from the event. It was actually very touching.
Nice.
But the remaining part of the episode mostly focused on Rebel Phoenix. The last time we saw her was in season 3. She's now at the school with Rias and Issei and all of them, and she's having a hard time acclimating to going to school in the human world. Because Issei had this thought in his head that
That's weird. I'm hearing an echo for some reason. At least like when I talk, not when you talk, but when I talk.
That is a bit weird. But anyway, because Issei imagined Rebel acting like the typical Ojo-sama archetype while she's at school, not so isolated or pensive to talk to other people because she doesn't know anybody, which is an interesting aspect to Rebel's character. And with later knowledge of what's going to happen to Rebel later in the series, where the light novels and the manga are, it's hilarious. But so they asked Koneko to help Rebel, and apparently she and Konako had this like bickering match where Konako won't help a scared chicken, and Rebel's like, "Well, I don't need your help, you stupid cat." Yeah, essentially, Konako
So
called Rebel
she wanted to start a cat fight with a cat. That's not a good idea.
She pretty much did that, and they looked to Issei to help them out to see who was right. And Issei's like, "Fuck, I was just trying to help. What do you want from me?"
No, you should never get into in the middle of an argument between two women. That's just a death sentence.
Oh yeah, that's some special kind of fuckery that you don't want to mess with. But that's essentially what sums up those two episodes, really.
All right, cool. So let's jump into Hinamatsuri, and then I'll talk about like the My Hero Academia and Fooly Cooly and stuff. Right. And then we can jump into the Otaku Soapbox after Fooly Cooly, since that kind of connects to that as well. And then we'll end the show with Megalobox,
like we always do.
Yep, because we got to end it with the hype train. So.
And that was
all right. Hinamatsuri. I'll take the lead on this one since you handled DxD and Comic Girls. So Hinamatsuri, this is probably the funniest episode of the season so far, in my opinion. So the first half I believe it's in the first half, but in the first half we meet Mao, who is another one of the psychic girls, that apparently is part of the organization. The agent chick from last episode, like, kind of sends an order in. What's her name?
Kay.
Kay? Yeah, okay. So Kay sends an order in to basically summon Mao to the situation to kind of help her deal with the Hina Anzu thing. And funny enough, instead of landing in the city part of Japan, she ends up landing in this like desert island. And lo and behold, very much like Hina and Anzu, her ball ends up getting wet and lost.
Yep, and she ends up playing.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, it's like this kind of. It's a very funny. I don't know if it's a direct reference, but what Mao does reminds me a lot of Tom Hanks in Castaway, because she takes two coconuts and models them after Anzu and Hina, and she basically speaks through them. And I love it because Anzu is, usual Anzu, talkative and helpful and whatnot. Hina, like coconut Hina, is just like, feed me. I'm like, you know what? Accurate.
Very accurate, even though Hina uses more words other than feed me, but still accurate.
Yeah, no, it's still pretty. That still sums her up pretty well. But yeah, at first, she's kind of happy about it. She treats it as like a vacation. She's having fun with her friends. That part really interests me because I thought all these girls were like little killing machines, but apparently she really likes Anzu and Hina, and they have some kind of friendship between them. So I'm like, oh, I wonder where that's gonna go. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. The half ends pretty much with Mao heading over, like in her own raft, trying to get to the city. But Tony, what did you think of this half of the episode?
Oh, I thought like it was actually pretty amusing to see like the progression of her like sadness and depression just climbing down further and further as the days go by, and she's like slowly spinning into madness. But the scene like, you're not really Hina or Anzu.
And she just breaks the coconuts and throws them. I'm just like, oh no.
And her, like, the last moment of her is like, I'm going to Japan. I'm going to find them.
Yeah, no, and it's not, and it wasn't even in like an angry way either. She just said, I miss people. And I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, because when you're alone, deserted an island for God knows how long.
Yeah, so it seems like she's the most emotionally developed of the three girls we've seen so far from this organization. Because unlike Anzu, who again she's she's more put together, but she's also very innocent and naive. I feel like Mao kind of has a better understanding of things, at least from what we got to see of her personality.
Yeah, you're right about that. Oh, Lord.
So yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. Now we're gonna talk about the second half, which is probably the part that had me like dying on the floor weak the most.
That left me
And
stitches.
so it has to do with basically Oji-san, the old man, who Hina just refers to as grandpa. So grandpa, the leader of Nita's Yakuza group, he's very sick, and he ended up having like a heart attack or something
All
before
because
he
I
could.
did it.
Yeah, Hina did it. I forget what Hina did exactly, but Hina did it.
So basically, said something to him, which made him like tense up and go into cardiac arrest.
So Hina made him have a heart attack, and this was right before he was going to name his successor, and so Anita's boss, basically his old big brother, because the Yakuza kind of works like a fraternity, but basically Nita's boss is trying to get Nita to help push for him to become the next president, the next old man, and he has to get one of his old superiors who just got out of jail to also support said lieutenant. And at first the guy's like, no, and then he was being a hard ass, and then he's just like, I'll do it, fine, cool. And then he's like, yeah. And then when the old man recovers from his heart attack and they're in the hospital, he's just like, hey, he's like, Hina-chan, what do you think I should do? He's like, well, the president is someone who has power, right? That's what I learned. That's what I learned from when I tried to become president. What? I mean, Nisa, why don't you do it? And then she goes, you know what? That's a good idea. Nita, why don't you be the next president? And then Nita just and then like Nita's underling, I forget what his name is, but
I don't remember his name, but
Nita's sidekick. Yeah, Nita's sidekick dude that's always following him around, like his younger Yakuza friend. He gets super excited and he like hits up the group chat and is like, "Yo, Nita sounds about to be the next president."
Before like he said a misunderstanding, and then Nita's like, "Fuck no, what are you thinking?"
Yeah, right. He sent the text message, and then right after that, Nita's like, "What the hell, old man? No, that would send the organization into chaos. I've put too much time and effort into this. I don't deserve this yet. Let me earn my way in if I'm going to do that, okay? There are people that deserve this way more than me. I will help them along, but I don't want to just jump up here because you like my daughter."
The funniest thing about that whole scene with Hina basically like pushing Nita up to the spotlight, so to speak, she said, "Well, the president's basically a grandpa, right? So why not get Nita to do it?"
Yeah, he was like, Nita had a dad too. I have another grandpa too. I never got to meet him, but I feel like Nita's gonna eventually be a grandpa, right? So why not? I like Hina's little logic there. I thought that was funny, and
then as you would expect in a with Yakuza, mostly in like in fiction, they and a little bit in real life too, because organized crime.
Yep.
They decided to put Nita in a fucking barrel in concrete.
Yeah, a barrel of concrete, and they're about to throw him into the river, but then they're asking him to confess, like, you got, what are your last words or whatever, and then he's just like, guys, you do realize that I got you the job, and I turned it down and told the president to pick you. And he's just like, yeah, right. You're just saying that to save your ass. He goes, no, I put too much time in. I am not going to die like this. And he starts to cry. And his underling is just sitting there like, what am I going to do? Yeah, what am I going to do? He starts vomiting everywhere. And then the old man shows up. He goes, what the guys?
What the fuck's happening here?
He goes, and they're like, Oji-san, Oji-san, how dare you make Nita the president just because you like his daughter and you view her as pretty much your granddaughter? He goes, yes, okay, yeah, I did say that, but Nita, being the good soldier that he is, corrected me and pointed me in the right direction, and actually I came to thanks to him, I came to this decision to select you as the next president. And he just goes, oh,
We made
my
a
bad. He literally says, my bad.
and then they basically
You just see like deadpan. You just see deadpan Nita, and like they're all cheering, and it's like yeah, yeah, and he goes, and the guy who got promoted to president, he talks to his basically his version of Nita's underling, and he goes, you were supposed to, you were originally my lieutenant, but because Nita helped me out so much, I'm gonna make him my lieutenant now that I'm president. So you're like one step closer to being president, Nita, and everybody's just like, yeah, yeah, and then Nita's just like, please get me the fuck out of here.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that last scene for that second half just had me rolling in stitches.
yeah.
Like, get out of here.
Also, the funniest part about this that we didn't even talk about is like once Hina, gets a wind of the promotion, she starts talking to everybody. Just like, so I want to do something special for my dad, for Nita-san, but like I don't know what to do. And everybody's giving her these different suggestions and all this stuff, like make him a cake, get him flowers, frame a picture. And so she decides to do everything. But how she does it, she makes it seem like a freaking funeral.
And dude, it's like, am I dead?
It's so funny. She goes, "What is this? This looks like a casket." And then Hina just pops out of like instead of coming out of a cake, she pops there. He goes, "Boo! Congratulations on becoming lieutenant."
Oh no! The best part about that whole scene was when she was trying to make a cake. She actually just poured salt.
Yeah, I thought that was really funny.
But it was nice of you to actually think of.
Oh yeah, no, I think that was really good development. I thought that was a really good development that she was actually thinking of another person and what didn't have to be told to think of another person. You know what I'm saying? She actually genuinely was like, okay, I want to do something nice for my dad, and then it's just like, well, what do I do though? I've never done nice things. I love when she talks to the sister. She goes, "You should get him some booze." She goes, "You're always drinking." She goes, "I'm not just drinking, Hina-chan. I'm celebrating life."
Oh yeah, because we know people that like I am not drinking because I'm an alcoholic. I'm drinking because I love life so much.
Yep. I just thought all that was funny and just the different like reactions of people and stuff. But yeah, no, overall a great episode. Not as like much of a gut puncher as the one for like the Anzu ones, stuff with Anzu plots. Anything with an Anzu plot,
Anzu makes us look like small children crying when we lose a toy.
Yep. But thankfully, it was just all funny stuff. So I feel like they're gonna do an Anzu episode next week and just go right back to fucking with our feelings.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's Hinamatsuri.
We're gonna be fucking with our emotions one way or another, Jay.
Yep. So yeah, that's Hinamatsuri. Next up, I will kind of quickly dive into My Hero Academia. There isn't much to say here because again, this is more setup. It's basically the heroes kind of make this this diversionary tactic. They post a press conference. Saying that they're under stress, they don't know what to do with rescuing Bakugo, but really they were faking it so the villains wouldn't expect them to attack, because then they do one big coordinated assault to attack the villain's hideout and the Nomu distribution place at the same time. However, the heroes did not count on All For One to show up, and this dude is literally so intense that literally the subtitles say not his power, not anything, just his presence. The fact that he is in their vicinity makes the kids who are there just to observe, because they snuck out to kind of just find where Bakugo is and then go back and report to the heroes because they didn't know what the heroes had planned. But so this One For All is so intense that his presence alone, he hasn't done a single thing but walk on to the premise. His presence made the kids have hallucinations of death.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they saw their own death with him just walking onto the field. He doesn't even see them. He just walks like within range of them. And also, just kind of a quick, it's not really a spoiler because they reveal it in the episode, but All for One's quirk, and All Might explained it in the flashback. All for One's quirk is that he can absorb superpowers and stockpile them. And one of the superpowers he recently absorbed, we find out the fate of Ragdoll, and Ragdoll's quirk is super OP. Ragdoll's quirk is that she can determine the weakness of any superhero and any quirk. So she's pretty much Karnak, and so All for One now has that ability.
Jay?
Yeah, it's broken. It's broken as fuck. Ragdoll is one of the Pussycat girls that was one of their teachers during the summer camp training arc.
So I'm guessing that. So let me get this straight. So Ragdoll is dead. So no Ragdoll.
She's not dead. She's unconscious, and now she's going to be permanently depowered because All for One literally snatched her powers.
So what you're telling me is that All for One has the ability to just touch people and just take their powers away.
Yeah, essentially it's Rogue on steroids, but like it's permanent. Like she doesn't have to keep, like, unlike Rogue, he doesn't have to keep touching them. He literally just has to touch them once, take their powers, and what he can do, and which is super broken, is he can stockpile powers.
Shit. So it's like Rogue and Mimic mixed into one person. That is fucking crazy for an arch nemesis for the top hero. Because All Might gets all of his powers from just everyone having the same shared quirk. And that I can understand from watching a good portion of Season 1. Because that quirk is just a collection of the same quirks just getting powered up over time. So One for All is like, oh, I'm taking all your shit. All right, so Jay just let me know that he froze a bit, so he'll be right back. And hopefully it won't take him long to actually get back on to the swing of things. So I will make sure to at least occupy a bit of your time. Let's see. We'll wait for Jay to return. But if anything, I can actually discuss what the initial plans for the show coming up. Recently, as a means to further my knowledge and repertoire when it comes to anime, I decided to watch a few shows. I still need to catch up on finishing up my queue for Crunchyroll, but I also have been watching a show called Tadaka-kun is Listless recently, which is a very fun show. I actually enjoy it. So the basic synopsis that I will give for this show, it's about the show's premise is basically in its title, where Tanaka is a high school student who's basically listless, who doesn't really want to do much, and he has a best friend who used to be a bit of a thug. And so these people just swarm around this poor guy who doesn't really want to do much. I mean, it's really funny and amusing, because with me, comedy always plays a bigger role in what I enjoy in either any form of entertainment. That's why I love stand-up specials so much, because I'm a huge fan of comedy. So with comedy in Tadaka-kun, it is essentially just a lot of deadpan humor and just people trying to figure out what's with this guy, essentially. And his best friends basically saying, come on, dude, let's make sure you eat. Let's make sure you do stuff. Literally picking the dude up underneath his arm and just carrying him like he was nothing. Which is part of the comedy, really. And also, Jay will mention this when he actually reviews it, but I introduced him to a visual novel called Magical Marriage Lunatics. And if you're not familiar with the visual novel community, the visual novel is basically about a guy named Yuta, who's in high school, of course, uh, being whisked away to different dimensions throughout his childhood without him having any knowledge of it. And it turns out that on these travels, he made pacts with the 5 princesses of the different dimensions. So you get a vampire, a succubus, a tenko, a goddess, and a witch, along with his his childhood friend, Yuna, or Yu-chan, for short. So they basically want to vie for his affection, and like any other visual novel, they have their routes. There's a common route for everyone to get to have a better understanding of the characters. We have side characters that are really funny, like the Count, for example, which is Luce's dad, and Luce being the vampire princess. And with visual novels, you get a lot of quirky moments. You get a lot of those scenes, and of course, you get those more saucy moments. And as someone who loves visual novels, has played only a few himself, and has had a passing interest in actually making my own, wanting to make my own visual novel, which I had a good concept for years, but I guess I can say this about it. It has to deal with time travel, but using magic instead of science. It's going to be quite hilarious. But if anything, all the shows that I've been watching on my own time, I'm behind, so behind on Pretty Derby that with my initial review of it, it will come out here pretty soon. Then I will get the ball rolling and actually doing a series other than Weeb Warriors called The Harem Chronicles, where I catalog and review every harem series that I can possibly find, which I've pretty much done beforehand, so I can have a better grasp of what there is to watch as far as those are concerned. Overall, I have the first episode planned. It's going to be a fairly decent introductory episode with a kind of a middle-of-the-road series. You'll find out what that is at a later time when it actually premieres. And Jay has returned to us. Thank the Lord.
Okay, I have returned. Sorry about that. I decided since I was waiting on my computer, I might as well get some water too. So that's why it took me a couple extra minutes.
Yeah, I had a press, and so I basically had to keep the crowd entertained a bit, so there wasn't a bunch of dead silence.
Yeah. To kind of comment on what you were saying, because I could still hear you. But the comment on what you were saying about All for One, actually, the origin of All for One versus One for All. Like I said, All for One is this evil. His quirk is stockpiling stuff.
Oh, you mean One for All?
No. All for One is the One for All. Yeah, my bad. I always flip these. But yeah, so his quirk is stockpiling stuff. Actually, the origin of All Might's quirk, I'm just gonna call it All Might's quirk, is the original holder of the quirk is actually the brother of All for One, or one, whatever. All for One. I'm pretty sure it's All for One because it's all for oneself. He's selfish. Yeah. So One for All actually originates from that. He gave that quirk to his brother. He gave a quirk to his brother, because it was kind of a combination of a bunch of stockpiled quirks, and he gave the quirk to his brother, and it kind of activated this latent quirk within his brother, which is he's able to pass down quirks instead of take them away. And so that's the origin of One for All, where he throughout the line, the symbol of peace passes down this quirk to the next generation of the greatest hero, which eventually leads us to Deku. So yeah, it's a good juxtaposition, as an arch nemesis. So I thought that was really cool, and just the fact that his presence, like I said, made these kids envision their deaths. It's crazy. I say this every week, especially with this arc for My Hero Academia, but it's going to get real, like really real. I've read in the manga, I am up to date, and it so far, like none of the arcs in the manga so far have topped the Hideout Raid arc, and it is really just about to get started next week. So I'm super excited to talk about next week's episode. But yeah, that's pretty much it for My Hero Academia. So next up, I want to talk about Fooly Cooly, which will lead us directly into our Otaku Soapbox topic for this week. So it's Fooly Cooly Season 2, aka Fooly Cooly Progressive, and this follows a new protagonist named, I want to say it's Yudomi, or Hidomi, or it's either Hidomi or Hitomi. I couldn't tell how they're pronouncing it. Some people in my comments said it was Hidomi. Some people said it was Hitomi. I don't know. But anyway, it follows her. She's this girl that wears like this set of headphones that actually it has like they have cat ears poking out of them. And what's interesting about her is she's a very emotionally stunted girl. She doesn't really express very many emotions, and she's kind of flat in terms of personality. And something that I find really interesting about the character and her character design and character choice, she wears these headphones all the time, right? But nothing is ever playing in the headphones. So she puts the headphones on so that people don't talk to her. And it's also kind of a metaphor of her shutting out the entire world. So it's that kind of thing. Because for those of you guys who don't know, Fooly Cooly is kind of just a giant metaphor for puberty and going through the wild and crazy mess that is hormones and your body changing and all that stuff. And Fooly Cooly Season 2 continues that tradition. We even see fan favorite character from Season 1, Haruko, show up, and she at the end of Season 1 she gained the power of the Pirate King. However, the power was too much for her body to contain, so she ended up splitting into a second person, or the rest of that power ended up forming a separate entity. I believe her name is Jin Yu, or I'll look that up later and correct it in the comments if you guys want me to be more specific. But it created a separate entity that uses the same guitar-based weapon as Haruko, and she is actually going to be the helper character for Hitomi and her friend Ide, just like Haruko was the helper / housekeeper for Naota and Mamimi in Season 1. So it's a nice parallel, but we do still get to see Haruko. And there's a really weird scene in here that like made me laugh so hard, but I was just like, if somebody just jumped into this without seeing Season 1 of Fooly Cooly, they would not understand this, and they would just be like, what the fuck am I watching? So essentially the scene is Haruko, while disguised as a teacher at Hitomi's school, she's trying to kind of assess the kids' emotions and kind of their personal feelings and whatnot, because basically the enemy of the show, Medical Mechanica, they kind of use hormones and volatile emotions as, I shit you not, interdimensional gateways from which they can pull monsters out of horns that protrude out of the teenagers' heads, which we see happen to Ide. Like a giant monster comes out of Ide's head and starts chasing after Hidomi. Like Ide ends up getting launched through the sky, and this monster lands in front of Hidomi's house. They both end up running, and when she asks, like, where did that thing come from? He goes, I don't know how to explain it, but it came from my head. And that's when, the chick with the guitar shows up, and then freaking Hidomi's horn starts to protrude after she experiences emotion for really the first time I can tell. She feels fear, and she's afraid for her friend. She thinks her friend's about to die. So a horn protrudes from her head, and it releases this giant robot, and the giant robot kicks the shit out of the monster. I know this sounds like total nonsense, but that is literally how this show goes, and it is great. I mean,
Nonsense on steroids.
I don't know how else to describe it. Like, it's really weird to recap because I feel like without context, it sounds like a bunch of gibberish. But I feel like if you watch the 6 episode OVA for Fooly Cooly season 1, and then jump into season 2, you will greatly appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. The visuals, the art style is wonderful. They keep up the same kind of tradition as we were talking about last week with the whole traditional anime versus CG 3D CGI stuff. This kind of had that more of an old school vibe to it. It didn't look as polished. I'm not saying it didn't look pretty. It was very pretty, but it didn't look as like overly shiny as newer stuff tends to. So I appreciated that. And they brought back the band The Pillows, who did the original soundtrack for Fooly Cooly, to do the soundtrack for season 2 as well. So I loved the soundtrack for season 1. I'm glad they brought the music back for season 2. Overall, really enjoyed it. If you're a fan of Fooly Cooly, definitely check out season 2. Thank you, Toonami. This is the second anime, fun fact, that Toonami has personally brought back for more that Japan did not want more of. But Americans love the shit out of Fooly Cooly, apparently. And so they were like, all right, so we're going to co-produce this with Japan and release season 2 and season 3 on Toonami. Because not only was it approved for season 2, once season 2 was approved, they automatically greenlit season 3, Fooly Cooly Alternative, which will come out later this year after the 6 episodes of Progressive finish.
All right.
So that's going to be fun.
And the first one, if you don't know already, that would be Big O, because we loved our mecha. We loved our mecha mixed with a little bit of Batman.
Oh yeah, it was dude. Big O is an awesome show. Like, I don't know why the Japan I don't know what the Japanese are hating on, but hey, their loss is our gain, right?
Definitely.
But yeah, and so that jumps into our otaku soapbox topic for this week. So Tony, I'll let you take the reins on this one. It is your show.
Right. Well, our topic this week is coming of age stories in anime. So, for me, I don't really see a whole lot of coming of age stories in the most normal sense of the way that it's normally presented.
Yeah, well, anime never presents coming of age stories in the normal sense.
Well, in the sense that you don't typically see it a lot in anime, but it's more metaphorical rather than like actual coming of age.
Yeah.
Some of the ones that I can name off the top of my head is one of my personal favorite manga that I've read, made by the same. I've talked about it on the show before, Evergreen. Mostly our protagonist who suffers from a heart condition that he got from his father, which was a genetic condition, to the point where he even had surgery. And so it's basically his story of accepting himself. Well, he didn't really want to do much. And upon just going through the story proper, he and our main heroine had a lot of self-discovery, stuff they realized about each other. I highly recommend it. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody.
Yeah, nice.
Because the twists and turns in that story with our two protagonist characters, because you get I don't remember their names off the top of my head, which I apologize, but Evergreen is from the same creator that created Toradora and Golden Time.
Yeah, this is the one you mentioned before.
And so expect a lot of like crazy bullshit, because not only does our protagonist grow as people, we also get to see our other characters grow as people too.
Oh yeah, that author does really well with character-driven stories, as you can tell by Toradora. I'm not even going to mention Golden Time because I have my own issues with Golden Time.
You and I have the same issues with Golden Time. Like for me, I personally haven't finished it since. Like yours, I left it on hold because.
No. That's funny. Like a side tangent about Golden Time real quick. I mean, Golden Time is also a coming of age story because it's dealing with your college years and kind of a kid going through going straight from college to from high school to college and dealing with that life. But talking about Golden Time real quick, funny story about that. So I loved Toradora. For a long time I always said that you know, what is it? Ryujin and I want to say I forget what is it?
Her name is Taiga.
It's Taiga. I thought it was Taiga. I wanted to make sure though. Yeah, Taiga and Ryujin were one of my favorite couples ever since I saw Toradora, and I was looking for more and more stuff done by that same, light novelist. And when my friend Corey told me about like, oh yeah, you should check out Golden Time, man. Golden Time's great. It's done by the same person. And so I watch it, and I'm like, oh, I really like this. I really like this. I get about halfway through, and I'm just like, well, what the fuck? Yo, why didn't you? Yeah, but and then Corey said like, oh yeah, so I never finished Golden Time because I got tired of the bullshit, but I wanted you to finish it so you could tell me how it ends. And I'm just like, well, it fucking sucked. I'm gonna tell you that right now. The ending did not land for me at all. But yeah, so obviously romances are a big example of coming of age stories. Well, let me tell you apparently how a lot of Japanese children learn about sex.
And this is something you talked to me on Messenger before, which I found very interesting. So present your thesis to everyone in the audience, Jay.
Okay. So here, so when I first came up with this topic for the podcast, I was like, all right. So I kind of want to do this because like Fooly Cooley kind of got me into that mindset. I'm like, there have been a lot of really good coming of age stories in anime, not just like anime themselves, but anime movies and other different things like that, video games and all that other stuff. But then I'm just like, what's the common factor in a lot of these coming of age stories? And I'm like, you know what's weird? Because I was just looking through my own personal collection because I'm a sucker for coming of age stories. It's one of my favorite kind of character arcs. And so I looked through my own collection of manga, DVDs, and whatnot. And I'm just like, you know what's really weird? The Japanese tend to use giant robots as a metaphor for sex a lot. I was just like, you look at Neon Genesis Evangelion, it's all about these prepubescent teenagers discovering their feelings, how they feel about connecting with people, like personal intimacy and actual sex. And it's just like, well, okay, that's one. And I'm just like, okay, Gundam Wing. They're all 16. Oh, that's peak puberty. They all don't know how to interact with people, but when they connect with somebody, it's usually with a robot, and the robot is usually sticking their, phallic weapon into an orifice. Well, that's kind of weird. Okay, Gurren Lagann. Your first protagonist there is Kamina, who is, openly a pervert, very, aggressive with his personal sexuality. And then we transfer over to spoiler alert because Kamina dies around episode 8. Spoiler, if you haven't seen the series, it's like, what, 5 years old now? Some over 5 years old now?
I would say at least fucking close to 10. I don't know.
Really? 10? Are we really that old? 10?
I mean, Gurren Lagann, I don't know when it premiered, but
I want to say it's at least 6. I didn't think it was 10, but wow.
Close to like 10 or 11.
Wow. But yeah, so
that's just my wager.
So anyway,
are watching that are actually going to comment on something, which I hope you do, because a comment would be most beneficial, at least for us, because we want to hear your input as well.
Yeah, especially on this section, because this is where we really want like back and forth with you guys.
Yeah, so we want to hear from your perspective what coming of age stories kind of draw the most attention, and.
But yeah, so my 2 last points that I want to bring up with the giant robots as metaphors for sex thing. Like I said, I brought up Gundam, but this year has spawned the most blatant, overt, like not even trying to hide it. Use a giant robot as a metaphor for sex, kind of thing in their plotline. In Darling in the Franxx. So
that's
like
And that was it's basically its initial conception from the start, because it invokes a lot of fertility motifs. The different mecha are named after flowers. The things that
the pilots, the different pilots, the male pilots are named stamen, and the female pilots are pistils. The male and female parts of flowers.
Yep, and they grow up in plantations.
Yep, and literally, if you guys have not seen Darling in the Franxx, first of all, you should. I didn't know how I was gonna feel about it, which is why I held off for so long. But then I got into it, and I'm just like, okay, now I know what Jordan and Tony are talking about. But just to give you guys kind of an example of how overt it is, literally the how the cockpit of the Franxx are set up, it's very much kind of in the vein of a Pacific Rim style thing where you connect with your partner and you know it's based on compatibility. However, how you do it is you're literally like, if you like, no joke, I'm not even kidding, I shit you not, this is all actual, these are all actual factuals. This happened in the anime. This was a thing that happened. How the mechs are positioned are the female is in front, bent over, and the male is behind in the dominant position. So if you are over the age of 18 or have seen any type of pornography, I'm sure you know what that position is. So yeah, that happens. That's how they activate their mechas. And no, that's not a double entendre. That is actually how they activate their mechas. I'm not actually talking about them, you know.
Like,
but
yeah,
no, that's how they activate their mechas. And because, you know, the mechas are hooked up to the nervous system, when they activate, the girls have a much more specific reaction than their male counterparts.
Oh yeah, that much is true. Oh boy.
And you know, again, we'll talk about this in more detail when we talk about Darling in the Franxx, but one of the funniest things to me is when there's a scene early on where one of the pilots can't connect with his female partner, and she's having trouble, and literally the conversation they have in the cockpit is literally the same kind of conversation of, is it in yet? Is it in yet? It's that kind of conversation, and I'm just like, yo, are they doing this? I have to be doing this on purpose.
Yes. When it comes to that show, since it has themes of fertility and sterilization, and in later episodes you get to see more themes, and they're invoking a lot of mythological metaphors as well, mostly from Norse mythology and the Jian bird from Chinese mythology. If you don't,
I mean, and these kids, that they have no idea about anything in terms of like sex. They don't even know what a kiss is. Like they know that a kiss is what they refer to as the linking process, but they don't know what an actual physical kiss is until 02 shows up. So I think that's also a big thing that I think is really interesting in terms of coming of age.
Wait until the later episodes, especially episode 19, where we get a little bit more backstory on the world itself.
Oh man, but yeah, so that's probably one of the biggest things that drew me into Darling in the Franxx, and that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to bring up this topic in general. And also, I kind of just didn't want to keep taking topics from Jeff from Mother's Basement, even though he comes up with some great discussion topics.
And
I was like,
appreciate this man's work and effort. We're not essentially taking his ideas; we're just trying to add upon what he was discussing.
We're just using the concept of like what he was talking about and giving our own kind of 2 cents. We're not using the same quotes, and if we are bringing up the same examples, of course we're going to give him credit because he puts in way more effort in his videos than we do with us just talking, you know, in front of, literally just kind of us shooting the shit in front of a camera.
Yeah, we really respect this this member of the anime YouTuber community who does put a lot of effort into his work, and we, as creators ourselves, we respect a lot of his opinions, especially with his most recent episode on Megalobox, which we'll get to after this, because God. But back to the topic at hand, 2 coming-of-age stories that come to mind right away for me that I just thought about were A Silent Voice and Your Lie in April.
Oh, those are two big feels trip ones. A Silent Voice especially hit home for me a lot.
Definitely.
Being disabled myself, obviously not in the same way as the main character, one of the other main character, but being disabled, I never really had to deal with direct bullying, but I definitely sympathize with that kind of sense of otherness. And I know all people that consider themselves weirdos also kind of like have that sense of otherness, but when you are physically different from somebody, like, and you can see that they see that, like, it's kind of a whole other thing. And when I watched that movie, I just like, I'm gonna need to invest in some tissues.
Oh,
I'm gonna be crying my eyes out.
try reading the manga first and foremost, because that delves in more into other characters that didn't get the chance to shine in the film so much.
Oh, nice.
But when I mentioned this to you, Jay, and when I initially brought this to your attention, the manga first, but
Yeah.
that was years ago, I think.
Yep.
You did not want to continue with it because it got too.
It got too personal. I was just like, especially when I don't know, like especially like when we get into like the stuff with like her couple attempts at that time when you had first brought this up to me, I was like, I wasn't like mentally ready to deal with that type of stuff. But when the film came out, I dealt with those demons, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can watch this now.
Yeah, the film itself, I watched it as well. It's a beautifully made film. Kyoto Animation did an amazing job with this film. I give them.
The emotion. I also like, you have to really commend it to them, especially because our main character, like our centerpiece of this entire story, does not speak.
Kid who bullied this poor girl when they were younger, and then he became a bit of a social pariah who wanted to end things. And I relate personally for me, because just the struggle, because I never bullied anyone. I've mostly been bullied throughout my childhood, but I had this mentality where I want, because things got too real for me, too overpowering, that
that overwhelming kind of sense of guilt and self-hatred. I feel like it's definitely there, especially for people that have felt ostracized throughout their lives, and that's why I think it makes it such a powerful coming of age story. It's a little tough to watch, but like I said, if you're in a good enough mental health space where you feel like you're comfortable being able to like sympathize as strongly, then I highly recommend it. It's definitely one of my favorites as well.
Beautifully made film. And with Your Lie in April, we focus on a character who is stunted by the past, and thanks to someone entering his life, he begins to go back to the way he used to be and growing past that initial trauma.
And also, it's like, pursuing your own passion, like going back to pursuing your passion. But I mean, with Your Lie in April, I didn't get as sad because, like, as a longtime anime fan, I saw
right off the shot. But
I was gonna say I saw from the first episode. I was like, oh, not gonna say, but insert name is going to die. I was like, they're not even.
They're showing death flags like they always do. Fuck. Damn it. And also, interestingly enough, I kind of have my own little thesis here, Jay.
All right.
You mentioned that giant robots are basically a big metaphor for like puberty in Japan. That's your thesis.
Puberty, sex, emotional maturity, most of those things,
involve robots. My thesis is more the social aspect. I like to propose, because this is maybe a very true statement, but I like to point this out anyway. My thesis is the harem genre as a whole is representative of hormones and how one interacts with the opposite sex, albeit in some cases it's a bit pensive.
I'll agree with you there. And the point I want to add to that with the harem genre is I feel like the harem genre is great for teenagers on the cusp of puberty or in the midst of puberty, because with all the different archetypes and personalities presented, this can allow the viewer to be like, okay, I like that type of woman, and they can do a little bit of self-discovery. And no, that is not a like some kind of like dirty joke. Okay,
Oh no,
I'm not trying to reference masturbation. I'm actually talking about self-discovery. Get your minds out of the gutter, you filthy animals.
yeah,
I know what
we're
you're
the only
thinking.
filthy animals here.
I know what you're thinking. Don't think you're slick. I actually was talking about self-discovery. But yeah, no, I think
Because
that type of thing is because, like we mentioned before earlier in a couple episodes back about the harem genre, is especially if you've seen enough, like you know what type of girl you would qualify as best girl, because you know what type of woman you are attracted to. Because with us as adults, we've experienced a lot in our own lives. We've, our own personal relationships have shaped us, so we know what type of woman we are attracted to and what type of women we gravitate towards and like, and that kind of is reflects in the characters we like as well. And that can also help in the development stage with viewers, is they're like, okay, I kind of like this girl, or maybe the Genki type is kind of nice. I do admire the loyalty that are in yanderes. They are a little scary, but I don't know. It's a little attractive.
yeah, and here's the thing: sure, we focus mostly on the characters themselves within the stories, but with the harem thesis, it's more like a self-discovery for the viewer.
Yeah.
Because we're not because the anime character, because the characters aren't the only ones that are going through this journey of self-discovery. Because depending on when you watch anime, like when you first get a good taste of it, you'll be growing up with this stuff. And with us, children that were born in the early to mid 90s, we saw a lot of anime in our time, starting from
Which I think actually is another good reason why I wanted to bring this topic up with us, in particular, is because I feel like we were the perfect audience, right? Like the anime boom in America came at the perfect time for us, because not only are several animes great coming of age stories within themselves, but if you look at kind of our progression in taste, as anime fans, and I'm sure you might have anything different, but I know I can speak for Tony and myself as well. It starts off with stuff like Pokemon and Digimon, and a lot of the like early 4 kids stuff, and then as we get older and we realize we learn more about the world, and our own experience shaping us, we end up getting into more complex and deeper stories. And a lot of the stories we watched as kids, we didn't have the same kind of appreciation watching them as kids than we do as adults. You know what I'm saying? It's that kind of, which is why I think, again, the anime boom came at a perfect time for our generation.
definitely. And one thing that I would like to mention, kind of juxtaposed to us growing up with anime at that perfect tailspin, the one thing I will mention specifically for me that is kind of amusing, because I mentioned before that I watched Yu-Gi-Oh! Dubbed first, and I never really knew kind of the darker implications for a lot of the scenes in Duel Monsters and then GX and much further.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's watched Yu-Gi-Oh! Subbed and dubbed, mostly subbed recently, thanks to Crunchyroll adding Arc 5 and Reigns, because I watched Arc 5, sub, and things get dark in fucking Arc 5, and then Reigns is also a bit dark, a little too much of like traffic accidents for my taste, but you don't notice as a kid the darker implications of the shows that you watch, and as you grow older and you become more weary of the world itself, you develop, and it's why I want to bring up the harem thesis, because me personally, as someone who calls himself a harem king, as kind of a catch-all term as a viewer of harem anime, I developed, like Jay said, a certain taste for certain women. Like, I'm I find myself now attracted to the more tsundere archetype than I had been when I first started watching anime. I just like certain.
And ladies, just a heads up, he's also a male tsundere. So let's see how that goes.
Yeah, well, with recent events, I'm going to be more mellowed out, but still, the male soon in me is just gonna just be there still.
Yeah, and again, we talked about this in the best girl discussion, but like to kind of piggyback off that, I'm very much attracted. I forget what the exact words for it is, but I'm very much attracted to like the Hinata-esque type, the very shy and reserved. Because I love the challenge.
I think those are dairies.
Those are dairies. That's what I thought, but I didn't want to get it wrong and somebody to be
I'm not
angry
too
in the
sure myself, but I think it's dairy. Damn
Okay,
it.
but yeah, I'm really attracted to like both in real life and in anime. I'm really attracted to the shy types because as a very loud, very outgoing person, I revel in the challenge of bringing somebody out of their shell. I love those small victories of, getting a girl who is very shy to like hold my hand or like look me like make direct eye contact with me. And I know it seems like a very small thing. Like, why would you be happy about that? If you have never dated a shy girl in your life, like having them be able to make direct eye contact with you, that is like a huge victory.
Oh, yeah.
So like, I don't know, I really like that challenge. But again, I also love my of course my go-to type is the Genki girl because I don't know, I love them bubbly because they're just fun to be around,
Definitely.
great energy, great energy, and it's just I don't know, like that's why I
This
like
why
those
I try
character
to
archetypes.
recommend stuff to you often, Jay, because I did recommend that you play through Magical Marriage Lunatics, and you ultimately loved it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I breezed through that. Like, only took me 2 days. Usually, it doesn't take me that long to finish visual novels anyway. But yeah, considering how long the campaign was, I didn't expect to take. Didn't expect to move as quickly as I did, but I did. That was pretty fun. And I know that was a tangent, but it still counts because also it is kind of also a coming of age story because in Magical Marriage Lunatics, without going into spoilers with the story, it's
But
a lot about like.
I gave a little bit of a synopsis of the overall plot while you were gone.
Oh, nice. But yeah, so yeah, just so that's also a good coming of age story. Like they're like I said, they're present in video games, anime, you know, TV
And
shows, books,
just to throw
comics.
something into the ring, so to speak, more of the social interaction. Persona as a series does a lot of coming of age stuff for a lot of their characters. They
Oh
have
yeah,
a self
especially yeah,
actualization,
definitely.
mostly with. Well, Persona 4 gets a lot of attention because it has a lot of like acceptance of sexuality in it. More like
Mm-hmm.
because Naoto is a character, she acts masculine in a very masculine profession since she's a private investigator
Mm-hmm.
at her age. Kanji coming to terms with acceptance overall, which people really point, and it's kind of one of the reasons why I like Kanji as a character so much. It's not because he's trying to be this queer representation character, which is a good thing for people to accept themselves
Yeah.
really are. But with
Which
Kanji,
also
you forget
to kind
that
of go with
Kanji, it's not about him being gay or not. It's more like
yeah.
he was afraid of accepting of people accepting him for who he is because he's a tough looking guy, but likes to do kind of feminine things like
Yeah.
sewing and all this stuff.
So
He works.
also just to kind of bring it back to what we were talking about with like older anime and stuff, and not realizing the implications of anime, and you bringing up sexuality. Now, granted, I am not a gay man. However, I grew up loving Sailor Moon, and I had no idea growing up about like the until I actually maybe like in high school watched the subbed version, the completely subbed, uncensored version of Sailor Moon. I had no idea how well they handled sexuality in that series. Both manga and anime, which I highly recommend also checking out the manga. Fun fact: Yoshihiro Tagashi is actually married to the mangaka who does Sailor Moon, so that entire family is fucking loaded.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely. The one thing that we like to point out is that we use entertainment as our own outlet for us coming into ourselves. That's essentially.
Yeah, like we are kind of the opposite of what Jordan mentioned. You know how he views anime, which there's nothing wrong with viewing anime in different ways. Jordan likes to see anime as more of an escape. We like to see it more of for an introspection kind of thing. I like to empathize with characters. If I can relate to a character, I will definitely like a show a lot more than
Definitely. With a lot of the things that I've experienced in my lifetime personally, I kind of gravitate towards a lot of shows that, sure, at certain moments that I want to feel better about myself, so I watch something that's really humorous, but I still relate to the characters in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
When I really want to get more introspective, I watch shows that provoke deeper thoughts than like, oh, that was funny.
And I mean, Hinamatsuri is the perfect example of that, because you get that in some episodes, and then you get episodes where you actually start to question life, and it's just like, wow, that was deep.
Definitely.
Damn, Anzu.
Why we enjoy anime as of right now in this day and age, we have access to a lot of shows that we might not get the chance to actually see because
I mean, because like, again, keep in mind, like, we grew up in the era of like tape trading and fan dubs, and fan subs also. So like,
and most
now that we're in like this,
they're getting better. That's for sure. And with streaming services like
Crunchyroll, Funimation, Verve,
Netflix to some extent, High Dive, we live in a day and age where we have the potential to actually continue down the legacy of watching anime, watching any form of art form, really, like any form of art form that provokes a feeling of like, of introspection.
I honestly really envy the kids that are born into the generation of Crunchyroll, because they have so much more access than we did. I mean, I guess it doesn't feel as special to them as it does to us, because
it's proven throughout different generations. The younger generations accept the technological advances of the previous generation throughout their lifetime. We, for example, we grew up with the advent of the internet fully coming in terms of the commercial market.
Yeah, but it was also in that weird time in between where it was that kind of in that transitional period where you still had, like, again, Jordan brought this up, a couple weeks ago too. It's that weird time frame where it's like you still had dial-up and still had like, box TVs, but also the internet was starting to come in, and like the world was slowly starting to expand. And now it's such a small world that a dude from the East Coast and a dude on the West Coast can be really close friends and talk on a regular basis and, shoot the shit about anime every week.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's how we kind of view things here. Because amongst our circle of friends, we are we get very real with ourselves. And I'm sure that everyone has that. Because I think that's essentially what coming of age stories is about. It's the personal and interpersonal relationships between people.
Yeah, which is why character-driven stories work so well. So
character-driven stories. Let's get to our main event.
Yes, that's what I was hoping for. Oh boy!
My dudes.
I think we need to change.
Jordan, I know that you didn't get the chance to catch anything, but dude,
bro, the first thing I told him straight up. I was like, the first thing you need to watch is Megalobox, because holy shit, I think they need to change the name of this anime from Megalobox to One Punch Joe, because my lord, you talk about it feeling.
Got to see the fight between Mikio and Joe. Mikio being
the guy with the ace gear. He's the brother of the chick who runs the Shiro Corporation, or the
Mikio's the older brother of Yukiko.
Yukiko.
And which is funny because I think I made this comparison in an earlier episode, but if I haven't, I'm going to now. In Persona 4, there is a character named Yukiko who has a similar hairstyle as the Yukiko here in Megalobox. It's very similar.
Huh,
It's quite funny.
cool.
Their personalities aren't the same, but I just find it rather amusing. Like, oh, that's a funny thing I noticed. But anyway, this
Mm-hmm.
fight, oh my god.
Okay, so I really like the idea of Mikiko as a fighter because like he very much like Joe, he has a personal stake in this. He feels like he was robbed, he was cheated out of the family business. But Yukiko sees, Mikio for who he is. He's like an impulsive opportunist who doesn't really think things through. He tends to give too much of himself to his work, and that tends to backfire on him all the time. Um, and his gear, and we find out actually that he has a personal beef with Yuri because Yuri was actually on his team, but switched to start working with Yukiko after he realized, where Yuri had the realization that Yukiko's like integrated gear is better in his opinion than the AI gear Ace that Mikiko developed.
Yukio.
Mikio, yeah.
And sure, we can get into the mindset of Mikio, but at the end of the day, he is a cunning, manipulative opportunist, like you mentioned. Even going so far as in the previous episodes to try to con Nanbu and Joe out of going to the fight into the going into the first place.
Because since they Ace specializes in detecting using sensors to detect movements of specific gear and sense the delay that gear naturally has. Fighting a gearless boxer would kind of mess with Ace's algorithm. So that's what.
In this fight, it didn't really mess with the algorithm anyway.
It was more human error that got him in the end because he wanted to prove to Yuri, that he was the genuine article. So he wanted to be the one to deliver the last punch to Joe, which fucked him up in the end.
Oh yeah, and that fight was electric. I mean, sure, Mikio had Joe on the ropes for the most part of the fight, and then that one moment where Joe basically doesn't move at all, and
oh my god, that like. Yeah. I don't know, like I don't know if you keep up with if you ever watched Dragon Ball Super, the Tournament of Power arc, but that legit reminded me of like when Goku went Ultra Instinct for the first time, and he's just like completely out of energy. His guard is dropped, and whoever it is that's punching him tries to punch him, he just instinctively just dodges, and I'm just like, yo, that reminds me. I want to see a GIF or a meme of Joe fighting Mikio with the Ultra Instinct theme playing in the background because I'm like, that's exactly what I thought of when I saw that shit.
Oh my god! Well, with that, Mikio, because with Joe, we know his tactics most of the time. He wants to psych up his opponents and see if get them to drop their guard. And I think that's kind of what Joe's whole plan is.
Yeah, that's what I like about Joe is we were talking about like interpersonal relationships. Joe is very good at reading people, and he can pretty much tell somebody's story through the fight and the punches that connect. You know what I'm saying? And he realizes, okay, so your whole thing is you're motivated by revenge. You're blinded. So I'm just gonna let your ego get the best of you, and I'm gonna get that hit, and all I need is one hit. Because
normally when we watch Megalobox, we watch these fights, we get to see Joe using his head in the ring, which is a good metaphor for these boxers who rely on the gear so much that they forget what actual boxing is. So
I would say, except for Yuri, I would say Yuri is the exception.
Yeah, Yuri's the exception to the general rule of the opponents that Joe has faced.
Because I love and I also love the moment. One of my favorite moments in the episode that exemplifies that is in the flashback when Yuri punches Mikio and Mikio blocks, and Yuri says, "Was that you or was that Ace?"
Yeah, and that's mostly focusing on Mikio as a character who must be a damn good fighter in his own right, but relying too much on AI can blind
Yeah,
the smallest.
and that's what Joe was capitalizing on, is that moment, that one moment of like self doubt of like, is this me who is it really me who wins the fight, or is it Ace? And when he held back for that split second, that's when Joe rocked him with the super uppercut and was just like knocked him on his ass. I thought that was
Oh yeah,
great.
that was satisfying because I don't know about you, Jay, but I was fucking tense as shit
Oh
when I was
yeah,
watching
oh
that
yeah,
last moment. Like, oh
because I
god,
was
like, come on, Joe, come on,
yeah,
Joe.
because Nanbu was like, this is it, this is the last one. I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no. I'm like, because in my head I'm like, it's gonna end up in a double knockout. It's gonna be a double knockout. It's gonna
Like,
be a
nope,
double
not no
knockout.
knockout because my brain's like they're gonna knock the fuck out of each other. And then when Mikio just lands on the floor, I'm like, oh my god.
Yo, I let me tell you something. I use crutches. I normally don't like to jump around and stuff, but like I legit got up and was like, yeah. I got so hyped.
Oh, I was hype. I was like just roaming around my apartment like mad, and I was trying to like let you and Jordan know what went down in that episode because I know I probably watched it first.
I was hype as fuck, man. Like I was just like,
What?
whoa.
Oh, I know if Jordan were here, he'd be losing his shit too with us.
Man, it was like the end of a fucking Rocky movie, man. He knocked the shit out of Drago. Like, granted, Yuri is technically the Drago because he's Russian, but like he knocked the shit out of Apollo Creed. Let's put it
Oh, yeah.
like that.
But then at the end of the episode, we have Fujiwara basically telling Namu like, "Yep, well, you lived up to your bargain."
Yeah, so he's gonna fight Burroughs next, right? Like the
Well,
Beast
I'm not
guy.
sure who he's going to be fighting next, but I'm more worried for Nambu because
Oh yeah, that scene at the end where it's like, well, this is it. Your time is up. You didn't tell Joe or Sachio,
yeah, you didn't
right?
tell Joe or the kid, right? And
Yep.
like, no,
Yeah.
I haven't. And it was nice to have that scene where they were celebrating their victory, like the biggest
Yeah.
they had in order to get to Megalonia. You had
I like that cliffhanger though. I like that cliffhanger of just Nanbu being them just his boss basically saying, "Time's up, Mr. Nanbu," and I'm just like, wait, what happened? What did he do? He got into
I have a
Megalonia.
suspicion that Joe's gonna try to save Nambu's life.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, since Fujiwara always, I think his name is Fujiwara, but
Yeah, it is Fujiwara. Yeah.
okay, well, he always mentions scorpion metaphors, or
Yeah. I'm assuming that's just referring to the old Aesop fable, the scorpion and the frog,
no,
right?
I know he constantly mentions metaphors for scorpions.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what it's referring to, is that old fable of the scorpion and the frog,
I
right?
mean, that
Where
it's alluding to how dangerous, how poisonous and dangerous scorpions are. It's kind of like he's metaphorically saying that people should be careful not to get.
around Nanbu, yeah, because Nanbu is quick to turn on people,
Definitely, yeah. And Nambu,
and he's very quick to dip, because I mean, as we saw with what happened with Aragaki, and he really did care for Aragaki.
yeah, and makes you wonder what's going to happen with him now after the fight with Mikio. And also how Joe and Sacho are going to react to Nambu either like dying or being carted off to die.
Yeah, because Nanbu is a father and grandfather figure to Joe and Sachio respectively.
Mm-hmm. They both call him Pops.
Yeah.
So they're basically looking to him as a father figure. And I also like in the scene where Nambu and Sacho, they basically argue because they have two separate parties going down.
Yeah.
Sacho
Sachio and his street urchin kid friends,
and
and
Nambu with the adults.
Yep.
area, basically drinking and like living it up. You
Yeah,
know?
and I love one of Nanbu's buddies is like, hey, what do you think about marrying my daughter? He goes, I'm way too old for that. I'm not talking about you, dummy. I'm talking about Joe.
And it's like, and he also mentioned that, well, she hasn't come out of the oven yet, but
Yeah, so it's just a
like,
baby.
oh my god.
I thought that was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Also, like just going back a couple episodes, because I didn't get to talk about this episode, that Gearless Joe tattoo that the one chick got, I was like, yo,
On
that
her
looks
thigh?
dope.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that looks dope. If I ever see a chick with that tattoo in real life, I'm just like, all right, yo, let me talk to you real quick.
Like, let me talk to you for a minute here.
Cause, but yeah, that tattoo's dope. I feel like if I ever gain enough monetary means, that would be one that I would possibly consider because like Joe
Trust
is the
me,
man.
I've contemplated getting tattoos for years, especially down to an Avenger symbol right here on this side of my chest.
Nice. I've always wanted a Harley Quinn on my right arm.
But
That's one of my biggest ones.
but overall, this episode of Megalobox was hype. We don't know who Joe's going to be fighting in Megalonia, which betting anything just
Also, I definitely support your theory of Nanbu's life being in danger and Joe saving Nanbu's life next episode because next episode it's called Not Dead Yet.
yeah.
So
They have a
that's
lot
definitely
of
possible.
metaphors in the show anyway, so
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't essentially mean much in the grand scheme of things, but you never know. Also, the person I think that's like the Megalodia fight setup is Yuri versus Pepe Iglesias.
Yep.
Spider. And then you have Glenn Burrows' Bloody Lion going up against Joe.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was going to be Burrows versus Joe, the Beast. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking the Bloody Lion versus the Junk Dog would be a good idea. It's a very David and Goliath.
Yeah, and especially because Yuri compared both of them to wild animals.
Definitely, a lion and a junkyard dog.
Mm-hmm.
And then Pepe, we never really got too much information.
Yeah,
on fighting
and
style.
we also haven't seen much of his personality. So I hope we get to see his fight with Yuri because obviously he's gonna lose, but I do want to see how he takes the L.
Yeah, I really want to see a little bit of his personality because sure, we're only running with about 13 episodes or 12, right?
I want to say it. Yeah, I want to say it's either 12 or 13, but I'm leaning more towards 13. I feel like it's 13.
I mean, we're moving at a pretty steady clip, and we only have like
4 more episodes left. Yeah.
It is 13. We might get the chance to see Pepe actually be a character and not just some fighter that's basically a jobber.
I hope. I mean, he's definitely going to be a jobber, but I do want to see more of his personality, especially given judging by his name, he's likely going to represent Mexico in this world tournament of boxing. Because we got Yuri representing Russia, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
You got Burrows for either UK or America. I want to say it's more UK though.
I say more. He seems more of an American fighter than a.
Really, the last name Burrows makes me think UK, but I could also see American. He definitely has the cockiness of an American, so I could definitely see American.
Yeah, you don't get called the Bloody Lion for a reason. And I kind of, if I were to make a real world boxing comparison, I would compare him, like in terms of like build and personality from the looks of it, Tyson when he's in the ring.
I would actually say Mayweather. He has that kind of like no one can hit me attitude from like his kind of because Tyson didn't do as much posturing around the ring back in his heyday. He was very cocky, sure, but he was more making threats in the interviews beforehand. But Mayweather, he loves to like get the crowd hype, dance around the ring, throw money at the crowd, like he is a very, very good showman, and that's the vibe I get from Burrows as well.
And I can kind of imagine him being a very brutal boxer. That's why.
Definitely. It's very I feel like he's definitely brutal. But I mean, if you ever seen the Mayweather fight, like that ain't no joke. he's very defensive, which is why he's undefeated. But man, when he hits, you do not want to get hit.
Oh, right.
Like, oh
But
boy.
I really like to see how the Megalodia tournament's going to turn out. We
Yeah,
know,
personally, that's why I want like going again to making that real life boxing comparison to Mayweather. Personally, I would like to see Burroughs have a more Mayweather like style because we've seen Joe fight very offense heavy fighters. I would like to see somebody who is much more guarded, that like he blocks your attacks, but the second he gets that opening, he's vicious as fuck, just coming at you with like blow after blow, not relenting. Like I want to see that. If you're calling yourself the Bloody Lion, that's the type of style I'm expecting to see.
yeah, and if we see yet another aggressive fighter, well, we don't have that much variety. And I'm sure, given what we have seen of Yuri's fighting style in the ring, he's fairly guarded in his own right.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, Yuri is very cold, but yeah, that's why I feel like it would be a good training match for Yuri if Burroughs is more like that, more of the defensive type, where as soon as he gets the opening, he's super relentless. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But with that, we pretty much covered everything that we can. We kind of went on a bit of a tangent, Jay having some technical problems and me trying to like make sure there wasn't any like dead space.
Dead air, yeah. Well, yeah. At least I mean, it wasn't as bad as usual with these things. So hey, I count that as a win.
Yep.
We only had one glitch today.
And I got to mention a really good anime that I've been seeing recently, which is Tadaka-kun is Listless.
Oh, I love, yeah. That's the one with that's the one I was talking about, right? With the photographer guy.
No.
No.
It's a show where it's basically a high school kid who is kind of deadpan and just doesn't want to really do much. And he gets somebody that basically says, hey, why don't we do stuff? And literally picks the kid up around his arm and carries him.
That's hilarious. I'm going to have to check that out. But yeah, no, that's cool.
Oh, that shit is funny. I love it. And I was talking a little bit about it because I'm still watching it for right now, but that's besides the point. I want to get into Caligula. And I did tell them that it's coming soon, but the Harem Chronicles is going to be a thing. It's going to be a series on the show, on my channel.
Nice. I like how you just smoothly transitioned into plugs. I see what you did there. Nice. Very slick.
Well, I kind of appreciate it while you were gone, but
I appreciate it. It's all good. Yeah, not much in terms of my channel. It's the usual reviews. I put a Supergirl review up today. Like I said, in terms of anime, I'm slightly expanding now. Now I'm not just covering My Hero Academia. I added Fooly Cooley to the list. That's going to be a lot of fun to talk about the weird bullshit that is Fooly Cooley. And I will be doing season reviews, or like like full-on anime reviews for Megalobox and Darling in the Franxx when that show wraps up. When both of those shows wraps up.
Redundant, really.
I mean, it's gonna be. I mean, it's gonna be a little redundant, but I mean, I feel like if I get my own personal thoughts out first before we do Weeb Warriors, I'll at least have more of a grasp of what I want to say.
That's
what I mean?
That's a very fair point to make. I'm pretty much
it'll make our show a little bit more polished if I'm not just kind of rambling on like I usually do. Because like if I already make the video on it, then I'll know what points I want to hit on like right off the bat.
Right, and with because I know with DxD Hero, since it's the fourth entry in the series season-wise for the anime, I'm going to have an entire retrospective for Harem Chronicles on High School DxD and kind of my history with it. So
cool.
I have to mention a lot of the things that Hero does. So I would have more condensed thoughts on the show when that wraps up and when we talk about it. So I understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. So look forward to those. But we'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed this, and hopefully Jordan will be back next week. So we'll have our usual trio.
Yep, we'll have our usual group of filthy animals discussing anime.
Yep, that's gonna be fun. Well, see you later, guys.
Later.